The perfect offseason does not exist until now. Welcome in to this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. I am going to lay out my 4-point plan for a perfect offseason for the Seattle Seahawks coming up on today's show. You will not want to miss out. Before we do that, folks, we are getting closer and closer to 62,500 subscribers on the channel, and we are ramping things up over the next couple of months as we do live shows twice a week. We are going to continue to bring you daily news and rumors, sometimes 2 and 3 videos a day here on the channel. We also have our breaking news, our interactive Q&A mailbags, and more. Your one-stop shop for all things Seattle Seahawks. Subscribe now for free, youtube.com/Seahawks TV, and we'll get started with today's show. So here's what we're going to do. I have a plan of action that I have put together of what John Schneider and Mike Macdonald need to do over the next several weeks to get this thing right. Let's be honest. Seattle coming off a 10-7 campaign, just barely missing the postseason. They're in a pretty decent spot. But with that said, they have a lot of work to do to take that next step forward in 2025. Let's take a look at the offseason outlook for Seattle. Mike Macdonald enters his second season as the Seahawks head coach. And according to the folks at overthecap.com, Seattle has about $15.17 million in cap space. Not a whole lot of money when you think about rookies alone on average cost you about $10 million of your cap space. Obviously, there'll be guys you move on from that will free up some money, but nonetheless, not a ton of money to work with. 8 total draft picks in 2025, including the 18th overall pick in this April's draft. The team needs for Seattle includes the offensive tackle spot, the interior of the offensive line, basically anything on the O-line. They could use some help there. The edge rusher position, the linebacker position, corner, defensive line, quarterback, tight end, and wide receiver. A lot of things Seattle needs to address here this offseason. So what does the perfect offseason plan look like? Well, Ryan Grubb just got fired a couple days ago. The Seahawks need to find his replacement, obviously, but not just anybody. I think when we look at what Mike Macdonald is looking for this offense, they want to be physical. They want to be explosive. They need to find an OC that is willing to play smash mouth football, that just wants to knock some helmets off their opponents, that wants to be physical at the point of attack. And we did a whole video earlier in the week with potential candidates to be the next OC, and I want to run through that list for you real quick, give you the short version of potential OC candidates for Seattle. They include the likes of Doug Peterson, who just got let go from the Jacksonville Jaguars, former Super Bowl winning head coach. Chip Kelly, who's at the Ohio State. They have a chance to compete for a national title. He's been very good when it comes to the run game over the years, whether it was at Oregon or UCLA or with the Eagles or with the Niners. He is a run-first coach. That could be what Mike Macdonald is looking for. Eric Bieniemy, a former running backs coach in his own right, won 2 Super Bowls on the Kansas City Chiefs coaching staff as the OC, went on to Washington and then to UCLA. He's looking to get back into the NFL. Brian Griese is a name to keep in mind, the quarterback's coach for the San Francisco 49ers. Good pedigree. Obviously, his dad was a great NFL player. He spent plenty of years in the NFL himself, winning a Super Bowl and also getting to a Pro Bowl. Was a pretty good analyst for ESPN over the years, covering college football and the NFL. So he knows a lot when it comes to offense. A young up-and-coming name includes Tanner Engstrand, the passing game coordinator for the Detroit Lions. Kind of got an outside chance, as Ben Johnson, the current OC for the Lions, is expected to get a head coaching job, and Engstrand could take that job in Detroit. But if he doesn't want to stay in Detroit, he would be a very good fit for Seattle potentially. A college name to keep in mind, some people think he's the best coordinator in all of college football, that being Charlie Weiss Jr., the son of former Notre Dame coach and New England Patriots OC Charlie Weiss, working with Lane Kiffin there. So even though he's not in the NFL, he does work with NFL people, the likes of Lane Kiffin and his father, Charlie Weiss. Jerrod Johnson, a name to watch, the quarterback's coach for the Houston Texans, former NFL quarterback in his own right. He has been a rising star, largely credited with the development of C.J. Stroud. Another former head coach, how about Frank Wright, formerly of the Carolina Panthers and the Indianapolis Colts. And he's got a good background when it comes to offense, being one of the better offensive minds in the league. And then a couple of other names for you. Davis Webb, the quarterback's coach for the Denver Broncos, spent several years as a backup in the NFL. He's been named as one of the best coaches under 40 to watch that could end up being a head coach someday. And then Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints, is also a name to keep an eye on as well. The Saints will have a new head coach. Will Kubiak be back or not? We shall see. And then some people mentioned Mike Kafka as well from the New York Giants. I would be surprised if the Giants let him leave for another coordinating job, but we'll see ultimately how that ends up. Obviously, a lot of pressure on John Schneider, but it doesn't appear he's going anywhere. Do you believe that John Schneider can get the job done in his second off season, calling all the shots, getting out of Pete Carroll's shadow? What do you think? Type B for believe, D for don't, if you think Schneider will have a good offseason or not in Seattle. Today's show is sponsored by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the place to go for the best seats, the lowest prices guaranteed. Whether you're looking for tickets to sporting events, concerts, theater productions, comedy shows, and more, Game Time's got you covered. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. They have their super deals. If you see a super deal, those are deals you don't want to pass up on. They also have their customize your spot feature where you can get the best bang for your buck, what you are personally looking for, folks. And I've had a lot of success with Game Time, whether it was choosing tickets at the very last minute on Game Time and saving big money. If I can do that, and I'm not the best with technology, then you can do that too. You choose the event you want to go to. They got the prices listed. You choose your seat, and then you're checking out on Game Time with Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, all major credit card providers. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. Number 2 on the perfect offseason plan for Seattle is fixing this god-awful offensive line. It has been a disaster. It has been atrocious. And, you know, it's twofold, right? Yes, you've been choosing the wrong players, but you also have not been developing those guys either. And I'll say this. When it comes to who you keep and who you bring back, almost, keyword here, almost, no one is safe. I think Charles Cross for sure is going to be back. And Abraham Lucas, I have a good feeling, is going to be back. But other than that, everything's kind of up for grabs at this point. Here is the Seahawks offensive line depth chart. If everyone was healthy, in theory, all right? Obviously, you had guys in the year on injured reserve and all that. But here's what it would look like if everyone was healthy. This is based on who played the most games for Seattle this year and who was kind of the de facto starters of sorts. Charles Cross, I thought, had a solid season this year, and this is a big prove-it year for him coming up. Laken Tomlinson, I'm not a huge fan of. Olu, I don't think took the necessary steps he needed. I think the right guard spot was a disaster with Bradford and Lumea and Haynes. None of those guys look competent at the position. Abraham Lucas, I don't think he's a bad football player, but he struggled to stay healthy. I can't trust the other guys behind him as well. You need a mass overhaul with this offensive line, whether it's free agency, the draft, trades. You just need to completely hit the reset button when it comes to this offensive line. Here's some notable free agent options at, let's go tackle, guard, and center real quick. At the offensive tackle spot, Ronnie Stanley, Cam Robinson, Dan Moore Jr., Jackson Smith, just to name a few. The offensive guard spot, Trey Smith is going to be available from the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's expected to be the highest paid guard in the league at about $22 million. That might be out of Seattle's price range, and John Schneider has been reluctant to pay offensive guards in the past. Zach Martin, Becton, Zietler, Will Fries, just to name a few. And then the center position, Ryan Kelly, Bozeman, Shelton, Green, and Eichenberg are also some options there as well. Now, when you look towards the draft, I'll be honest, this is not the best year when it comes to offensive linemen in this year's draft. Mel Kiper Jr. of ESPN only has 4 offensive linemen in his top 25. So for all of you that are saying, well, Seattle has to use a first-round pick on a center or a guard, what I would tell you is there's not a single guard or center right now, and that could change, that has a first-round grade. It would be a reach for Seattle to select a guard or center as of right now with that 18th overall pick. Some of the tackles, I really like Kelvin Banks from Texas, Will Campbell from LSU, another solid one, Josh Simmons, Ursary from Minnesota, not a bad option as well. Those are the 4 within Kiper's top 25 on his draft board. Who is an offensive lineman the Seahawks should add? Who comes to mind? Give me a name in the comments section that you would like to see in Seattle this offseason. We pretty much know for certain that Tyler Lockett has played his last game with the Seattle Seahawks. That appears to be a foregone conclusion at this point. He's got a cap hit of $30+ million next year. He took a significant step back this season. Tyler Lockett is basically done, and he pretty much said his goodbyes in his post-game news conference on Sunday as well. So with Lockett gone, you need a dependable option that you can turn to as that number 3 receiver. I'm going to tell you this right now. That's not Jake Bobo. Jake Bobo is just barely a number 4 receiver in this league. You are going to have to go shopping for a number 3 receiver option to back up JSN and DK Metcalf. And I don't expect Seattle to use a day 1 pick if they were to draft their number 3 receiver. But some guys to keep in mind, potentially day 2, day 3. Top of the boards include Isaiah Bond from Texas, Williams from TCU, Golden from Texas, Epic, we'll call him Epic from Stanford, Jalen Knoll, another solid one from Iowa State. Iowa State had 2 1,000-yard receivers this year. And then when you look at value free agent options, guys that could be that number 3 or on some teams a number 2, but not cost you a ton, names include Marquise Hollywood Brown of the Chiefs, Mike Williams, Nelson Aguilar, Brandon Cooks, Tutu Atwell, just to name a few. Who is a wide receiver the Seahawks should add? Whether it's somebody in free agency, whether it's in the draft, whether it's a trade, get in the comments section and let us know who comes to mind that you'd like to see Seattle add this offseason. Number 4 on the perfect offseason plan for Seattle, you have to re-sign Ernest Jones. That is a given. But on top of that, you need to get some dogs on this defense. I'm talking guys that play with their ass on fire, that play with that extra motivation, that look like Mike Macdonald's guys. I don't want just bodies added to this defense that says, oh, that's a need. This guy's available. Let's add him. No. I want guys that play with some fire, that play with some extra juice. We saw guys in the second half of this season play with that juice, and that's kind of what we're looking for. Dodson, Baker, those guys didn't have the juice. Let's start with Ernest Jones. You have to bring him back. You don't make that trade for him at the trade deadline without accepting the fact that you have to bring him back. And we saw in the second half of the season how important he was for this defense. I'm projecting that he gets about a 4-year, $38 million deal. That I can live with for a guy that's going to be a cornerstone piece of your defense for many years to come. I think Ernest Jones is a guy that is perfect for this Seahawks defense, and he's just now entering his prime in his mid-20s at this point. Ernest Jones was all over the field and did everything from getting pressure, stopping the run, playing coverage. I think that we're just starting to really get into Ernest Jones's full potential as far as that goes, and I think you have to bring him back. Similar to Leonard Williams last year when you made that trade. Yes, he entered free agency, but you weren't going to let him walk anywhere else. You've sacrificed too much in the trade market to let Ernest Jones go. You have to bring him back. You need depth on the defensive line. I like Byron Murphy. I like Leonard Williams. I really do. But Jaron Reed's not getting any younger. And we saw when guys went down how bad it got with some of those defensive line guys that filled in. You need some more pieces there. You need some inside linebacker in edge help. Ernest Jones, obviously, you bring him back. That'll be great. Tyrese Knight, another year older, but you need some depth behind him. The edge rusher position, I can't depend on Uchenna and Nwosu. I can't depend on Draymond Jones. I need some other guys. I like Boye. I like Derek Hall, but you need some more pass rushers there. Oh, yeah, and how about the corner position? Look, I'm very thankful that Josh Jobe wasn't that bad, coming off the practice squad and starting the games he did. But for all that is holy, my goodness, can we not have to start Josh Jobe or Trey Brown next year at outside corner? Rake, it was a little reeky at times, pun intended. Devin Witherspoon's great, but you have a lot of question marks at that corner position. I think safety is better than what people give it credit for. Julian Love is a Pro Bowl caliber safety. I think Kobe Bryant took some tremendous steps in the second half of the season. I'm not so worried about the safety spot. But the corner position, I have some real concerns. Will Seattle be able to re-sign Ernest Jones? I think they will. What do you guys think? Type Y for yes, in for no. Weigh in and let us know. For continuing Seahawks coverage all offseason long, subscribe now to Seattle Seahawks Today. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.